A winning first approach hides future failures under the blanket of success today. Listen, how often have we seen this? You've seen teams who win a lot of youth championships, even dominate in youth ball. They got the same exact kids on a high school team, and you got their youth coach getting on social media going, same kids I coached back when they were 10. We won every championship there was, right? Why can't these guys win in high school? What's going on with those coaches up there?
Welcome to the Coaching Life Podcast. My name's Pat Martin. I'm here. What's the name of our studio, Coach? We should name this thing.
Well, it used to be called Podcast Studio One, and now UCM changed the name on us. So,
Oh, they did?
well, I walked in here one day, and there was a banner that says, "Welcome to the Pod."
Ah, the
So
pod.
it's Schoonover Center's.
Coming to you
pod.
live from the pod.
pod.
You won't hear this live, but we are live right now.
We're always live. You and I are always live.
We
when
are.
we're having these conversations. Do you listen to our podcasts?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we first started doing them, I would listen to them all the time.
I used to send you the links before we even posted them.
Yeah.
That's an extra thing.
Right, yeah. We don't need
Extra
do
thing
that
to have
now.
to do.
'Cause we were like, I know before I was like, I don't want to see how I sound, see if I said anything stupid, but
At that point,
Now I
what
just-
are we going to do about it?
I just
Right?
embrace
It's
the
already-
stupid now.
Yeah.
when I'm
Embrace the
here,
stupid.
when I'm behind the microphone now, I'm calm as a cucumber.
Calm as a cucumber.
Shoot, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm all bundled up because
Oh, I
my
know.
office is freezing cold. Well, it's cold outside. What, obligatory weather talk.
I
Here we
know.
go.
I was thinking about walking up today. I had to walk a little further than what I normally do, and about a quarter of the way here, I thought, man, it's cold.
Underdressed.
outside. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still beautiful though. The
Yeah.
fall leaves are falling off the trees, changing color, and campus looks amazing.
You know what tomorrow is, which is going to be the day that this podcast. So today, when people listen to this podcast,
Yeah.
it's going to be the
November
first day
1st.
that my family listens to Christmas music.
Really? Is that
Not
just
me
how it works?
personally. I'll hold off until after Thanksgiving. But yeah, well, I mean, those Christmas movies that are always on our TV. I don't know what that channel is.
You really
Does your
don't?
wife watch those?
You don't know the channel?
Well, it used to be the Hallmark channel, but apparently now it's not.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she switched to some other channel now.
Oh, yeah. We watch them
It's-
all the time.
You say we?
No.
You get
well,
caught up
I
in
mean,
those?
I have to. I'm forced to.
Listen,
because
you've seen one, you've seen them all, right? Some dude moves from the city to a small town, and this girl's visiting her small town, and they happen to meet in a garden, and
There's some kind of problem.
And there's some kind of a problem, and they fall in love. But
We
he
just
has
lo-
a girlfriend back home.
Wait a second.
and-
Looking at the listeners here, we just lost 6% of our listeners.
of our
just by
female
talking.
listeners. Yeah, I don't know if it's a family network or there's some
I
other
didn't know it
network.
wasn't Hallmark. That's interesting. I mean, is
They-
Hallmark
they're-
still
they
around?
still do Hallmark, yeah, but I think there's another one that we'll have to have somebody comment and let us know.
You know, I really think that there's a channel that's on all year with those kind of shows now.
Christmas shows.
I mean, well, maybe it's just Hallmark and it's just the same show.
They
except
take-
now it's Christmas.
they take
It's
a
not Christmas
break.
themed.
Like, it's always Christmas, but they take a break on Valentine's week and they show Valentine's movies, or a break for, are there Halloween Hallmark movies? Like
I don't
Michael
know.
Myers Falls in Love.
That sounds interesting. Actually,
Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger.
I've been
and
watching,
Jason.
I told my work team this. I said I've been watching Friday the 13th movies since
The old ones.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The classics.
80s.
Yeah. Since Friday the 13th, October had a Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
So I've been watching it, and they're like, "Why do you watch it?" And I said, "It soothes me." I like.
You're
does.
morbid.
I don't know what it is. It's just there's something about rainy,
Well.
the weather, like rain on those cabins.
There's a
in
reason
Friday
why
the
people
13th.
want to hear ghost stories. It's I don't know what it is, but it's.
I'm not a
I
big,
get it. I don't know about soothing, but it's. I understand what you're talking about. I don't know if I have an adjective for it, but
I don't know. For me, it's just like watching.
Nostalgic.
Yeah, yes. It's nostalgic for me.
Yeah.
But I don't. My son Jake, he's been watching the Saw series.
where you get somebody in a predicament where you either have to do this, which is
Right.
really bad, or you have to do this, which is even worse.
Yeah, right. Well, you have to do one thing to live.
Like cut your
It's
leg
either
off,
like cut your leg off or
admit
die.
that you are a sexual predator or something like that.
Nah, maybe I don't know. I don't think that was part of the movies.
But the
no,
very
it's
first
usually
movie was
you have
something
to do
like that, though, right? Like the
Well, the
guy
guy
did
had to cut
something he
him.
shouldn't have done, and
Yes, that's why all of them get in the predicament that they're in is because supposedly.
how many souls are there?
Well, I think he went through 10, and that was all that was on Netflix or Peacock.
Jigsaw, that's it. What's the guy's name?
That's him.
Because he
He's the
died a
mastermind.
few times, didn't he? And came back, or he had a daughter or somebody that.
Yeah,
carried out
I
his
was
work for
watching,
him.
but I really wasn't watching that close, and I'm still not for sure.
There actually is a
where he
story to
actually
those, right? A
died.
storyline. It's not just the gruesome gore,
See, he had cancer.
exploding jaws and things like that.
Well, I mean,
yes,
that's-
the guy that.
Jigsaw had cancer, and he drove himself over a cliff, and
Oh,
he like got like hung up in the car, and he thought he was going to die, but he
that's
had
the,
he
that's
had the
the
will
end
to-
of one movie, but then he.
No, that was
beginning of another
actually,
movie
I
is
don't think
he
that
actually
story came
lived.
through in part 2.
Oh, okay.
So it was just, why was this guy doing this? It's
yeah,
because
yeah,
he had the
yeah,
will to live.
He
So
found
he
a
won.
new will. He wanted other people to have that.
Yes. he did.
Unfortunately, many of them did not make it.
No, a lot of them do not.
Yeah.
And then people started to do unescapable traps, which
Right.
that wasn't fair.
No, that's not fair.
Jigsaw didn't like that, but I
Oh,
think
somebody
he-
was copycatting him.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Right. So,
Okay.
good stuff, but too gory for me. I don't like it.
No, it's
Okay.
not. That's not scary.
No.
It's just the anticipation of something that's going to gross you out.
I
basically.
know. I don't like that.
Did you ever go and watch a Friday the 13th movie in the theater?
I've got a
Were you
great.
too young for that?
I've got a great Friday the 13th theater story.
You went to see another movie and snuck in to watch.
No.
That was my story.
Oh, really? Let's
Yeah, we
hear
went to
yours
see, like,
first, 'cause mine's
Footloose.
better.
We had to talk our parents into going to see Footloose for a second time, right?
Yeah.
Just drop us off. We're gonna go see Footloose, and then we
That wouldn't happen now. I think they comb the theater. They comb the
Comb it for
room.
kids?
Yeah, because I'm thinking a couple years ago, Jake went with his friends.
You got booted from an R-rated movie.
They had to have a parent, and the parent was actually out in the parking lot.
The
So
parent had to actually come in
parent
and buy
had
a
to
ticket.
actually come in and buy a ticket and sit in the. It was kind of stupid, but Jason versus Freddy was a movie.
Yeah.
which combines Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
And I've always been a big fan of both of those franchises. And my wife, she wasn't my wife then, but Chastity knew that. She because I made her watch all the movies and stuff. And so it's really big. It's like a big thing for me when
Okay.
Jason was going to go against Freddy. It's like, this is
Who's gonna
awesome.
win?
This is great. And I'm like, I want to go see it in the movies. I want to go see it. And she comes to me and says, hey, we're going to go to the movies. I'm like, yes, to see
Something else.
Fred Eats Apples. I don't remember what the movie was, And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, what? That's what our friends want to go see Fred
were
Eats
double
Apples.
dating.
Yeah. I'm like, are you kidding me? You know how bad I want to see Freddy versus Jason. You're going to make me go watch this movie while it's playing? Like, that's ridiculous. So I went anyway, but she lied to me. We were going to see Freddy versus
The old
Jason.
switcheroo.
Yeah, she switched it up on me. She
Yeah.
likes doing that to me because
Okay.
she knows I.
Nice surprise.
Yeah, so pretty good.
She
Pretty
wanted to
cool.
make sure that you would submit and give in to whatever it was that she was wanting to watch before she said, well, this is actually
I had
what
to
we're
earn
gonna
it. I had to earn it.
That's what it was.
I guess. I don't know. But yeah, it was a good day.
watch. You know who would whoop all of those horror movie villains, or who has outlived them all? Of all the horror genre, like the actual Halloween, Michael Myers. How old is that original movie? Is it older than Friday the 13th?
I think
I
so.
think it goes back to the 70s, doesn't it?
Yes, I think
Yeah.
1978
So Mike
was.
Myers is like 120 years old right now, and he's still getting around killing people with,
No, he's not
with a
now.
knife.
He's just
Is it like a relative?
Halloween has ended. That was the last movie.
Halloween
Halloween
ends.
ends. Which
Until
I love
the
that
next
too.
one.
I love those too because
Until Rob Zombie or somebody decides to remake it again. And
see, I didn't. I don't watch those
the
because those are gory.
they are pretty gory.
That's
yeah.
what they make them. I just don't want it. I don't know. I don't like it.
Yeah, the real fear, like if you want something that is really genuinely scary, Netflix had a one of those story series The Haunting of Hill House.
Love
and I think
it.
they did 2 or 3 other ones also, but like the original one,
Oh yeah.
there was no blood in it.
No.
But it was
Did you watch
scary
it?
as heck.
I love
and
Haunting of
and the
Hill House.
wild thing about it was it wasn't like jump out at you scary, because you could see everything that was happening on the screen, but the characters couldn't see. And so like you could see that really tall dude floating behind him, and he's like leaning down, and he like, the guy has a sense that something's behind him, but he doesn't turn around, and you're like, dude, that thing's right behind you.
And a lot of that was like realization scary. Like,
Yes.
what?
Yeah.
That's what that was?
Yeah.
You know, and it was just like, oh man, that's so creepy. I love that series. I tell everyone, you should definitely watch that. If you're a scary movie person, The Haunting of Hill House. That's a
Yeah,
good
those kinds of
series.
things where you come to the realization of something later, and then you go back and you see, and in your mind, you're like, all the things I should have been scared of, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the
yeah.
Sixth Sense movie with
Yeah.
Bruce Willis at the end of that. You know,
Yeah.
certainly by now everybody has seen that.
I have
so
a
we
lot
can
of people
play
te-
spoiler.
A lot of people tell me that they knew that was going to
Ah,
happen.
yeah.
I'm like, you're crazy.
Yeah, right.
Get out of here.
Yeah, my wife's a spoiler.
Is she?
If we're watching something suspenseful, she's got it figured out.
Yeah. Does she tell you? ahead of time?
She used to. Yeah, she doesn't watch those movies anymore though. Yeah, April's gotten soft. I'm gonna get in trouble.
Yeah.
Edit that out.
But what are we talking about here?
No,
This is,
spent 10 minutes
movie
talking about
review.
how it's Halloween. So it's your special Halloween episode. It's transitioning now into Thanksgiving or Christmas. You know, years ago when we first started this podcast, you and I did a one every day episode called the 12 Days of Coaching. Remember
Yeah,
that?
it was good.
And it was like 5 minutes. We recorded them all at once, but
Yeah,
we
it was good
released
stuff.
them once a day. It's pretty, yeah.
We did that
Maybe
to get
something
ahead,
to
didn't you?
consider.
Didn't we? We were way ahead, and now we just sometimes we're 2 days
well,
late.
you know, it's easier. I think it's easier now though to do a podcast that you know is going to come out immediately, and we can talk about recent things on it.
Yeah.
and not have to be like, oh well, by the time that comes out, it's going to be old news, because you know how the world works today.
Right.
You know, whoever's first is the best,
well,
and that's not really true, but that seems to be the principle in journalism these days.
yeah,
right?
it really does, unfortunately. Or maybe we'll get in trouble by saying something like that in the
Nah.
Scripps College of Communication.
No, but I'm learning. We teach journalism ethics, and
Solid.
It's just are people going to do it? It's personal
Sure.
choice, right?
Yeah, right,
You
yeah.
want to get. Unfortunately, in the media today, if you want to get ahead, then
Yep.
you got to be sensational and first.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
It is.
Sure is. What are we going to talk about today? Something that
We
can
do
be
have a
scary.
topic.
We do have
We
a
do have a
topic,
topic.
yeah, for sure. I've heard it said by many youth league coaches, parents, officers, anyone involved with youth sports, that coaching at the youth level, and I've even heard this argument for high school as well, which I would, most people don't say it because it seems a little bit more ridiculous to me. But even saying that, I think there's a problem with that take too, because one goes with another. But some people say you should play or should be there for development, not for winning. Development over winning.
Every age.
Some people say every age.
Okay.
I mean, and I would say you can make that argument slightly for high school, especially for kids that want to go into and play a college sport. They're still developing.
The
But
truth is, even the college teams that are successful are developing as well. It's hard to find a college in the baseball world. It's hard to find a college coach who is committed to development.
Yeah.
I think the more you're reliant upon the more you're reliant upon winning to keep your job, right? Like the more professional you are as a coach, the more the focus is going to be on less development, more on winning results. Because if you don't get the results, then you don't get to feed your family and
Right.
drive the nice sports car or whatever.
I think that's a mistake.
Well, it's one of the big mistakes. I mean, a lot of travel organizations have gone to professional coaches, right?
But you
So
travel
now it's leaking down into youth ball.
right. You know what though? Here's a good question. I'd like to have. I know Ty Alt is really big into a couple softball travel organizations, pretty big ones. I'd like to have him on and talk to him about this. But I wonder what I would say a lot of travel organizations don't even care about winning.
Don't care about winning.
They care mostly about how many kids they have. Like the bigger travel organizations are going to say, this kid went to this guy. How
many kids they had go on.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
When they're
That's how
promoting, if they have a wall to promote things on, they're not
right.
going to necessarily promote all the trophies they won at these tournaments, but more this player played for us, and now
Right.
she's playing in the
Now,
professional softball.
You would probably say those organizations are kind of focused towards development, or at least the perception.
a certain kind of development.
The perception,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's interesting. But yeah, so we're going to talk about winning versus development today.
Mm-hmm. Very relevant topic for the Coaching Life podcast.
Sure.
Very relevant topic.
Yeah.
Well, it's a situation that we all experience. It's a very common situation, and it happens in all sports. We're about to turn a transition from football to basketball, and I know this is a big, hotly debated topic in the world of basketball, especially when you're talking youth basketball, versus high school varsity basketball, for example. You have two scenarios basically that as a coach. So from a perspective in coaching, you have a winning scenario and you have a development scenario. And I guess one of the things that maybe a conclusion that we should try to come to today, maybe one of our goals or objectives should be, by the time we're done listening to this podcast, hopefully, are we able to say, can these two things work together?
Yes.
Right? Is it possible to actually have both? I think that you're always going to have emphasis. And that's the issue, I think, for coaches is there's always going to be a greater emphasis on one or the other based on who you are as a coach. There just will. I think we got to admit that. There's going to be and I think we should probably outline what some of those differences are.
Okay.
And help people say, because if somebody's listening and they coach a youth sport, right, they can go, this is where I land, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you think this way, then maybe you're a development guy. If you think this way, then maybe you're a winning only guy or a winning guy.
That's
right?
interesting. I'd like to
winning
go that
first,
route.
development first, winning first. I should say it that way. Not only, but first. First. What's first?
Yeah. I'd like to have someone on that would side. In my stance is I don't think you can be a good coach and prioritize winning over development.
I would agree with that. Like a good coach at what level though?
At any level.
Because so if you're coaching the Arizona Diamondbacks to win a World Series,
you're right. Yeah, no, I would say that ends at the college level.
I mean, there's a ton of development happening at that level.
There is,
right?
There is.
Of course, the manager who's writing up the lineup is not the one doing that development,
right? But the boosters, the talking heads, they expect you to be successful in the win column, and if you're not, you're not going to. As a coach, you're not going to be there long.
So maybe we should just take professional and college off the table.
I think right now, yeah.
Let's just go from high school down, because even you and I are paid, but it's not our salary, right? Like we would do it if we weren't paid.
Yeah. Sure.
You and I would.
Right.
I mean, we have. Mm-hmm. But so it's not like, well, we have to have the results. We may get fired. I mean, we'll still get fired probably at the varsity level if you don't.
Well, yeah,
if you're losing every year.
I think
right?
exactly.
You should get fired. I think
that's sure. That's the difference. I think over a period of time at the high school level, if you are not being successful, if you're not producing good seasons, then you fall under that scrutiny of, well, why aren't you winning? And I think that's a great question for the discussion today.
Yeah,
I think a lot of times the answer to that question is if over a period of time, I'm talking 5-6 years, a coach isn't successful. Why are they not successful? They're probably not successful because they haven't done a great job of developing.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
I've read a lot of articles and even sections of books on this particular topic over the years, and some of the things that, you know, in the immediacy of preparing for this, one author, and shoot, his name didn't show up on this stinks. Oh yeah, Coach Dave Taylor. Sorry,
Yeah,
it's right at the top. Right, Coach Dave Taylor has an article called "Winning versus Development." And he actually talks about the two different scenarios: the winning scenario versus the development scenario. This is a basketball coach, and he's talking to youth basketball coaches, and he's saying, you know, in the winning scenario, let's say the 11U age group, right? Then if I want to win most games, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the player that can score the best and the best athlete on the floor at the same time all the time. And I'm going to tell them to dominate the game, basically, right?
Yep.
Because that means we're probably going to win the most. I'm also going to do things like I'm only going to put us against opponents that we know we can beat all the time. We're going to get in leagues or you know, those are going to be the choices that we make. That's your winning mindset, right? As opposed to development mindset. Now, he said if I have a development mindset, then I'm going to, instead of just coaching the best player to attack and score all the time, I'm going to coach the best player to involve, to run the offense well. You know, let's work on seeing how well you can get other people open, right? And involve, you know, and let's work on playing defense with great fundamentals. And here's the big thing: I'm going to sit out every player that does not give maximum effort. Because maximum effort is a developmental skill.
Sure, that's good stuff.
And if you don't give it, then you're going to learn that there's consequences for not giving max effort.
Absolutely, and that might hurt in that game. That might hurt your chances of winning in that moment.
Yeah.
So, and you know what's more important in that case is the development of that. And then really, who you're most worried about in that case is the kid that you're setting out.
Right.
Because they're not giving you maximum effort. That's their problem. It's their issue. It's not the rest of the team.
Right.
Now, the other kids do learn things from it because they're seeing
Sure,
this
it's an
kid.
example that's being set.
Right, but for the most part, you're doing that for that kid. But you might be sacrificing the opportunity to win in that case.
For
which
sure.
Some people have a tough time doing. Yeah, I think, you know, basketball, I haven't really thought of it. You know, most of my experience is in baseball. And I would think about things like, you know, the way that we run bases in youth baseball or softball. You know, the way we teach our kids to approach an at bat. You know, if in many recreational baseball leagues, I would guess across the nation, because I've seen it. If you're talking 10U baseball, you could have a really high on base percentage by just going to the plate without a bat.
Never swinging.
Never swing. And, you know, we have...
Yeah, the 9U age group especially, right?
Yeah, right, when they're just starting pitching.
Yeah.
Of course, you know, some areas start pitching
Even
younger
sooner
than that.
yeah.
So, but yeah, so, you know, you hear a coach in the box, don't swing at this one. You know, you're not swinging. You got to make him throw strikes. And, you know, they just walk.
Walk after walk after walk.
So
Hey,
what
we're
is that?
scoring runs, though. Hey, we're winning.
Scoring runs. What are we doing there? You know, what's the purpose of that? You know, and I would argue that there's a time for that, you know, to do things that way. But that's part of development too, is understanding the game situation and knowing when you get up there, you're not going to swing. There's never a time to go up there and know that you're not going to swing it, you know, during the entire bat. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But, you know, we do have...
Well, I mean, that's setting a player up for failure when they get older, because you're not going to be able to do that.
Right.
Base running is a great example of it for youth baseball, because if you've got really great athletes who are really speedy and fast, they don't even have to be great baseball players. But if you have a kid that's just an aggressive kid, you could tell him to never stop.
Yes.
Right? He hits a ground ball to shortstop, and you know it's a triple, because they're going to throw so the kid. So what you then teach him is, you're like, don't run through the bag on a ground ball to shortstop, because you know you can get to second base.
Just run to second.
Right? So just plan on running to second, and then when they throw the ball away, run to third, make them stop you. Right? And so the problem is, people are like, what are you talking about? You know, what's wrong with that? Well, what's wrong with that is you're only thinking about winning. You're not. That is not development.
Yes.
Because there is never going to be a time, if that kid, you're setting a kid up for failure when they get older, because they will not be able to do that in high school.
Right.
They will not be able to do that.
And really younger than that. And I see you see this a lot of times happening. You know, the team's been
8U
together
to
and
10U.
the coach.
Yeah.
Yes, really. And so the coach, you know, they're used to running. And the next year up, they don't go through the bag. They turn and go to second, and they get thrown out. And the coach is saying, what are you doing?
They learn a lesson that they should have learned from you in 8U ball.
Right. And they're doing exactly what you taught them to do the year before. They're being, overly, and that's one of the arguments that you hear from coaches, well, we're just teaching our base runners to be aggressive. No, you're teaching your base runners to be
reckless and careless.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Sure. That's not smart base running.
It isn't.
So there's a good example there.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to have, one thing that Dave Taylor says here in his article, he says, if you're going to have a development scenario mindset as a coach, that strategy on your team will only work if your club has really good culture. If it has the right culture, right? Because the challenge that you have as a coach who truly does, because we may have a lot of people who listen who say, I really want to do this. But when it comes down to brass tacks, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to do this. It requires communication up front from the beginning. Listen, there's a good chance we are going to lose some games. We're not going to win all of our games.
Right.
And that's okay. It's hard to, I had to pause there, right? Because it's hard for me to say that's okay. But it's that balance of, because some people listening right now will be like, I disagree, Chris. I want to teach our kids to win.
Me too.
And I do too.
Yeah.
I do too.
I think, maybe it is hard to grasp that kind of, because my thought is you can't develop players completely unless you're teaching them how to win.
Right.
So
it's
winning,
part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Winning is a fundamental skill that kids learn as they get older.
But how, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, if you have a group of kids that consistently lose, they're probably going to lose in high school because that's what they know.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah.
The flip side of that is not always true, though. If you have a group of kids in 8U ball, 9U ball, 10U ball, 12U ball who consistently win, there's no guarantee that they're going to continue to consistently win in high school.
And why is that?
Here's why.
Yeah.
Listen, how often have we seen this? Like you and I, we've seen people post like this on the internet before, right? You've seen teams who win a lot of youth championships, even dominate in youth ball. They got the same exact kids on a high school team, and you got their youth coach getting on social media going, same kids I coached back when they were 10. We won every championship there was, right? Why can't these guys win in high school? What's going on with those coaches up there?
Right.
I'll tell you what's going on. They weren't developed back then. They were just a lot more athletic kids when you had them. That's the truth. That's the truth.
Yeah. I mean,
it's not always the truth.
Right,
Maybe you developed them really well. Maybe you should be coaching the varsity team, right?
Yeah.
Right. But the reality is, you are setting people up for failure if all you are doing is teaching them to win, is doing whatever it takes to win, right? As from a coach's perspective, if you're developing and they're winning a lot as youth players because they're being developed, their skills are being developed, they're learning the game, they're playing aggressively, and now you've got a perfect picture.
And they're being challenged.
They're being challenged, yes.
Like you mentioned,
Yes.
Coach Taylor said, put them in situations where they almost can't lose.
Right.
That's not ideal.
No, it's not, because then you all of a sudden you get punched in the mouth, figuratively speaking, you get punched in the mouth in high school, or later on when you're playing more challenging teams, and you're like, "Whoa, we're not used to this. We don't know how to lose now. We don't know how to fight and finish."
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah,
it's a balancing act. It really is. It's
and I would
balancing
say,
act.
I'd say basketball's really like this, baseball's really like this, and I just say that because I know from experience, just seeing it. I'm assuming that this is true in all sports, but winning and knowing how to play the game to win are two completely different things.
Yes.
You can win without knowing how to play the game right to win, and that's what gets you as you get older. When you have success at the 6th grade level, and then you even junior high level, and then you get up in high school, and you see a group of kids that really don't know what they're doing,
right? Because
the talent level has evened out.
They can't just win on their athleticism alone,
right?
At that point,
yeah.
And so, and that's going to happen with when I go back to when I said always happen. The reason why I say it happens a lot because you see kids get to where the playing field's even, and all of a sudden now they're trying to win based on just their athleticism, and what they could really use right now. They're still athletic, but things have evened out. What they could really use right now is some skill. is some things that you should have developed them in them back when they were with you as a
And
youth.
knowledge, IQ,
and knowledge of the game,
awareness,
yeah.
those sorts of things.
What I tell you, here's a winning focused approach. A negative about it. Here's what it can do. A winning first approach can hide future failures under the blanket of success now, current success. A winning first approach hides future failures under the blanket of success today.
Right. Do we have an example of that?
I think the youth game, the youth teams that I mean, just any hypothetical situation, all the youth teams that win a lot, and then you wonder why they're not winning in high school, right?
Yeah.
It's the same kids. It's the same exact kids.
So what do you do about that, though? I mean, how, we're, and that, it sounds like we're blaming all the youth coaches for these situations. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No.
As a high school coach, what is your concern there? What do you do?
I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example. I mean, and only the people who are local to you and I will know of this team. But I'm going to guess people who listen who don't know this team that I'm about to say. You have an example like that in your community or in your league or conference. Vinton County basketball is a great example of this. You know,
yes, it is.
I mean, this is a school that has not been as successful in other sports with the same athletes. And so my question would be, so Vinton County High School basketball has traditionally been, they will traditionally win the TVC Ohio.
Cream of the crop.
Yeah, I mean, they're all, you always expect,
they're
right?
always a favorite.
Beginning of the season, you ask, who's the favorite to win? Vinton County's always in the conversation. So let me ask this. Has Vinton County always had the most athletic kids on the basketball court every year? No, but they had the most skilled kids.
Yeah.
Who knew how to play basketball. I mean, some of these kids I looked at how they shot the ball. I'm like, geez, what's going on? I mean, they aren't necessarily faster than the other kids that run up and down the floor, but they play really fundamental defense. They play hard. They do things well. I mean, they do things well. And what we know about Vinton County is that in that community, MacArthur, the town of MacArthur, right? There is a gentleman named Bob Grillo, Judge Grillo.
Coach.
Years ago, on the radio, what is it, 96 something out there?
I don't know.
But he does all Vinton County sports on the radio. Bob is an incredible man. I coached against his son, who went off to play baseball in Harvard, by the way.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Bob, following in his old man's footsteps in the career. But Bob began and organized the youth basketball league in Vinton County, and it is a developmental league, but they also win a lot.
Yeah.
Right? So you talk about somebody who's done it well, but from the time those kids start dribbling a basketball when they're really young, is to learn how to dribble a basketball, how to play basketball. Their big guys can handle the ball. How is that possible if you as a youth coach, a youth basketball coach, for example, just staying in this basketball conversation, what if your first mindset is to win, what you're probably going to do is you're going to get your little guys that are fast and speedy and can handle the ball. You're going to make them do all the ball handling drills. You might have everybody do ball handling drills, but you're probably going to send your big guys underneath on the block and teach them how to put the ball, how to catch a bounce pass or an overhead pass, and put the ball up on the hoop. And you're going to spend most of your time teaching those particular skills, right? And you're going to neglect ball handling skills with your big men. I did this with my daughter. I'll confess. I did this with her. She was one of the tallest people all the way up through 6th grade. She gets to middle school, she's done growing. She's still the same height now as she was in 6th grade. And so what did we do with her? She was dominant under the basket, right, as a youth player. And then all of a sudden she gets to high school, and now she's one of the shortest girls. And the high school coach is like, "You're a good athlete. You're going to be our point guard." And she will tell you she panicked all the time about having to bring the ball up the floor, about facing pressure. Now she did well. I mean, she did learn it, but it wasn't. You could tell she wasn't as comfortable with it
Taught her how to
because I
compete,
did
that's
not
why.
develop it in her. I did not develop that skill in her
yeah.
because why? Well, in order for us to win in fourth grade, we needed the ball handlers to handle the ball. We needed her to just be dominant underneath. And that's what we're talking about. Like, she could have been a lot better in high school.
Right.
Had we taught her how to, now she in high school, she got underneath and played, and she led the team in rebounding as the shortest girl on the floor, right? She loved getting underneath and mixing it up. What if we had taught all the kids that were guards how to do that when they were in youth, right? Yeah. Imagine how dominant they would be on the board. The whole team would be on the boards. And
sure.
I think that I don't want to sound like we're putting down all youth coaches, because I was a youth coach and I contributed to this problem. I contributed. We covered up and hid a bunch of things that they eventually failed in as they got older, so that we could be successful
in the name of winning.
In the name of winning in the fourth grade.
Yeah. It happens. I think that, that's why the conversation is valuable, because
and it's going to require a very, very humble youth coach, right?
Sure.
Because you're basically saying that you will sacrifice what your heart beats for if you have to, right? Like your heart, like, we are competitive people. We want to win. And if I have to sacrifice some of that so that this kid could be even more successful in his future years in high school, then that's what I will do. And that's what I mean when I say that takes a very, very humble person. You don't find very many people, like, everybody who wants to coach wants to win.
Sure.
Right? And so it's a really, really tough conversation, I think.
Yes, it is. But I think that's why it's important for, high school coaches to get out into the public, into the, to the youth leagues, and be able to have those conversations with their coaches and let them know, hey, this is what I'm seeing with the kids that are coming in. They're not, our base running skills aren't that great. And I just want to talk to you about how we do that down here, how we're teaching that, so on and so forth. So I put a little bit of the onus on the high school coach to be involved and know what's going on, to say, hey, help me out here, let's do it. Or, even if you don't want to have that conversation, you could say, hey, here's some of the things that we do, and try to plant those seeds to help. I think that's one way a high school coach can get involved with, the development of the youth in their area. That's going to impact their program in future years. And that goes back to what we were saying about, a high school coach that isn't successful for a period, an extended period of time. They're probably not successful because of the development. Well, some of those kids aren't even in their program, to develop them. I mean, if you're talking about freshman and sophomore, that's not a lot of time to develop kids.
Right.
And to be honest with you, you don't have a lot of individual time as a high school coach to develop kids anyway.
Right.
However, I still think development is something that you need to be worried about, and not just skill development, but also the development of the person, development of, and that's how you get, that's how you drive a good culture.
Yes.
So, all that kind of
stuff
goes hand in hand.
Well, that is a great point about developing the human being, because it's easy to think about development as a human being because, like, it's a process, right? Like, are they just a great human by nature?
No,
right? No,
absolutely not. All right.
You learn how to be and you practice it, and I think that's one of the biggest differences between a development mindset, development focus versus a winning focus is a winning focused approach or winning first approach is a fixed mindset. I mean, you're focused on one thing, and that is the result. Whereas if you have a development first mindset, that's a process mindset, right?
Yeah.
So
let me ask you a question here.
Yeah.
How does playing time fit into this argument discussion?
It's very relevant, I believe, right? Because in the levels of play where the greater priority is development, then you're going to probably have scenarios where more playing time is afforded to a greater number of people. I'll give, the Athens Sandlot League is a great example of this. It's actually built into the rules. Little League is an example of this. It's built into the rules that everybody on the roster has to get an at bat, I think, right? I think in Sandlot, it's everybody has to play a certain number of innings or something like that.
Right.
And so it's built in there, and so it's going to happen. And the idea is this is a developmental league, and we want to give everybody the opportunity to develop.
Yep.
And then as winning becomes a greater priority, you're probably not, the playing time will be given to those who help you win the most.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think there's 2 points to be made there. One, I think it is on the recreational leagues to take the lead in making sure that development is a priority, just like you're saying the Athens Sandlot League does. Here's things that you run into though, like Athens Sandlot. How do they manage that? So if a team ends up with 20 players,
well, it won't happen that way.
Exactly.
Because of the infrastructure.
Yes.
The structure of the Sandlot, that league is there is parity.
Yes.
It is a structure of parity. And that it's a league where everybody comes to the same place and they sign up at the same place. They have an evaluation day, and then coaches come and they have a set of criteria that is objective, like time, exit velo, things like that, things that are objective. And then you give some subjective thoughts, right? This person obviously looks like, he can play. Or, some of that is based on how many years you've played as well. That's
sure.
You get all this information, and then basically you add it up, and the player gets a score. And you, at the end of the evaluation period, plug all this in the computer, and, this player in this age group is your highest score, and you're working on down. And then the coaches still get to choose. So then you have a draft day, basically. The coaches get together. You got your list. You got all your evaluations in front of you. You got your scores in front of you. And now you draw straws, and this coach won, this particular team won the first pick. And then everybody gets a first round. You go first round, and you go drop it straight down, and you come backwards on the second round, and you just pick from there. And so basically every team ends up with a first rounder, a second rounder, a third rounder, a fourth rounder. And the idea is to create parity within the league.
Yep. And parity allows all those teams to have the same amount of competition, to be put in the same type of challenging situations, to get experience dealing with being down, to get experience dealing with being up. And it speaks to the value of losing as well, because typically in a league like that, one team doesn't have an undefeated team. And, if you do some studying, and, I wouldn't nail it down to anything, but there are studies out there that you can look at that say there is, to reach a potential of development, you want to lose a certain percentage of your games. You actually want to lose those games.
Well, you learn. I mean, losing is learning. We talked about that 100 times, right?
And if you're never in the situation where you can lose, you're never in a situation where you can overcome that situation.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So you're not in that position.
Yeah. Nobody wants to fail, but failure is inevitable. You're going to fail, as you get older,
and you got to know how to handle it.
As you progress in life and as you progress in sport, the harder it gets, the more likely you're going to be to fail. And so, when it's so easy to win at the younger years, right? Listen, if you want to just win all the time, you could easily do it. You really could. You select all the best athletes. You find a league, or you schedule games with teams that you can beat, and you win all your games.
Yeah.
Yay! Good for you, right?
Right.
But we didn't teach those kids how to handle adversity. We didn't teach them how to fail. How to respond to failure. There's so much that can be learned.
Are what they're going to experience more and more as they get older in high school.
Yes.
In the sports that they play in high school, football, basketball, baseball, softball, whatever it is, volleyball. They have to be able to perform in a situation where they're not in control, where they're not feeling great, where the odds are against them. Yeah. And if they're always winning, then that doesn't work. They're not getting that development.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. We said when we talked about a scenario where when development is the greater priority, then this is how much time players will get to play. When winning is a greater priority, then that changes. It's going to change. So a question that I might ask off of that is, when does that priority shift? Like, at what point in the life of a kid should, like, you as a coach, like, so you're coaching junior high basketball, you're coaching 7th grade basketball this year, right?
Right.
Is that in the middle? Is that should we shift it at 7th grade? Like, is there a noticeable shift? Like,
Yeah.
how can we navigate that?
Well, I mean, I'm not the authority on this.
All right.
But
mean,
yeah,
who is?
I do think if you haven't begun by then, it's you need to, because you're talking about 2 years of learning those things, and it's a learning process. Kids shouldn't be getting to high school and expecting to play every game. They should,
or even expecting to make the team.
True.
Right? I mean,
right. Yeah. I mean,
you've got to earn your spot.
Yeah, absolutely.
At that point, where you
earn
can't
your
just
spot.
sign up and pay your money and be on the team, right?
Yeah, good point. You earn your playing time. You earn your spot.
You could potentially get cut if you're not good enough to be on this to do this thing. Now you're gonna be good at a lot of things, but just this just might not be one of them.
Sure.
At some point, we have to learn those lessons.
But see, that I think people would argue in that case that, well, they're okay now. You guys you only care about winning now, and that's where there comes
a point.
That's where
when
the discussion
we start to care about it a lot more, right?
Yeah, you know what I mean. So at some point you have to begin to say.
And I would even go ahead.
We need the best players to win. Winning is the goal of every competition.
Yeah, it is.
And if you're not picking the best players to do that, then you're not developing properly.
And even at the younger levels, we still care about winning. Like, winning is still the goal, but it's winning bigger and later, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and so the dichotomy there is they got to learn, they got to experience winning to learn what it feels like, right? And to get that hunger, right? But you also have another responsibility, and it's almost a greater responsibility at that level, which is to give them the tools that are going to be necessary for them to be able to win later when the stakes are even higher and the notoriety is even greater.
Right.
And so you're thinking ahead too, because because here's the reality is they could have one of those things at the younger level and not be guaranteed, like we said at the beginning, not be guaranteed to have that same thing when they get older.
Right.
And so you've got to have both mindsets in that sense.
Yeah, I think one goes with the other. I don't think you can develop without the attitude of we're going to go out and win. And ultimately, you can't win. What you're saying is, as they get older, that's when winning counts the most. Ultimately,
it's when they're going to remember it the most.
Yeah, you can't win at that period unless you prioritize development.
Yes.
So it's like it's the catch-22, if you want to say that, but you have to.
That is the catch-22. You can't win unless you prioritize development. But if you prioritize development, you might not win.
Right.
That's the catch-22.
At a younger level, right?
In the immediate. Again, it's present versus future, right? You can't win in the future unless you prioritize development now.
And you know what?
But
that could be said in high school. If you have, let's just say, and you have a really weak senior class, but a really strong freshman class, and know that maybe they're very similar in talent. It might be a good idea, something you'd have to discuss, to think about, to play a lot of those freshmen, knowing that because they're freshmen, they lack experience, and they don't know as much as the other juniors and seniors and upper tier sophomores that you're going to face in other teams. That it might cost you games, but because they're getting that experience, it's going to help you win the next 3 years.
You're thinking about the future there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, and I would say that's a more complex situation.
It is complex,
but
because you also need to win today at that level.
Sure, right. Yeah. So it's a tough decision.
But if you have the exact same chance of winning with both groups, that's what you're saying, right?
Right. Yeah.
You could see a coach saying, "Oh, I'm going to choose the freshman then."
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So there's an argument for that.
Right. For sure. Well, I think, it maybe another mindset for thinking about development and combining these two things is let's have a new mindset toward development then.
Yeah.
And that development isn't not winning.
No.
Development is the process of winning. It's teaching it's us focusing on, so because winning, becoming a great human is not something that you just are. There's a process to it. And it comes through decision making and choices that you've made and behaviors and habits that you've developed, habits that you've dropped versus habits that you've picked up, good ones versus bad ones. And it's a process of becoming a good human, right?
Yep.
And so let's think about what it means to develop in terms of we're in the process of you being a winner.
Yeah, and I think a question you want to ask yourself in that regard is what I'm teaching, is what we're doing in games translating to the next level, to the next age group, to the advancement of this teams and individuals' advancement in both aspects. Is what I'm doing going to help them next year and the following years? And if it's not, then why are you doing it? And at that point, it's probably an easy answer. I'm doing it so that we can win because it helps us. Helps us succeed. And if that's the case, then you're probably you need to reevaluate some things for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
There's an organization. It's a soccer organization that put out sort of a document, I guess you could say. It's called GNK Dynamo Zagreb Youth Academy. I'm not even sure it's from this country, but it's a youth football academy.
Is that soccer?
Football, yeah. So it's definitely not from this country because they're calling football, they're calling soccer football, right? So,
right, which really is football.
But
really
anyways,
is.
Yeah.
Hey, I was going to say, as you said that, youth soccer has an amazing infrastructure in other countries.
If you Google development versus winning, 90% of the articles that you will read is youth soccer articles.
Yeah, I've had some friends that I've learned met over the internet from Europe and other places, talking to them about youth sports in America and how different it is here than it is there. Crazy, big time difference.
Listen to this. I'll play something for you here. This is we need to make sure that this is Miami Heat coach from Stan Van Gundy. This video is from 15 years ago, but he's leading a camp and he's leading a camp of youth coaches, and this video is from Marquetta Sports Group LLC, and they're actually borrowing it from somebody else. But I thought I'd give them a shout out here. But
they're important in a lot of ways. First of all,
talking to youth coaches
from a basketball sense, for just their skill development and stuff. That's going to start at a very young age and is going to be determined at a very young age. And quite frankly, if you look around, we're failing pretty badly in this country as a whole in teaching people basketball skills. And you all notice it that watch the NBA, because there's a huge difference in just the skill level of the players coming from Europe and what we have here in terms of their ability to pass the ball and shoot the ball. We can't even produce enough people who can do those things here that we got to go across and try to find people who can do them. We're not developing skills here. One of the reasons is, we are much more interested in playing games and winning and losing at a young age than we are in skill development. So I would say this to all of the youth coaches here, even more than the high school coaches, is you have to make a decision if you want to teach the kids that you're coaching how to play basketball, or if you just want to win games, because there's a big difference. I last spring coached both my 12-year-old daughter and my 9-year-old son for 2 months in a YMCA league and had a group of kids. And I got to see every approach, And I would say to you, of the probably 18 teams that I saw just in that limited time, there were maybe 2 or 3 coaches that were one-year youth league.
Oops.
In a 9-year-old league, play zone defense okay, for the entire
I accidentally
game.
skipped ahead there a little bit.
Obviously, don't ever let your biggest kids dribble the ball. Make sure
mentioned
they
that.
always give it to a guard who is usually your son, okay? And so they can run up the court. And then you wonder why at the high school level we got so many kids who can't play, and we never have a 6'5", 6'6", 6'8" kid who can dribble, pass, and shoot, because at the young age, you tell him to go stand under the basket and get the rebound and give it to somebody else. So the first thing I would say to you, you have a decision to make. Do you want to help build basketball players, or do you want to just tell everybody you won your youth league?
I want the plastic trophy.
It's a ring now, Pat. It's a ring.
Maya got a ring there.
How many rings are these kids
It was
getting
his
now?
first one. I was like, and it's impressive. It's like heavy.
I know.
Like, wow, this is crazy. Yeah, I'm not a big ring fan, but anyways.
Tell him I dare him to wear it to high school.
Yeah, where's your ring, babe? Why don't you wear it to school today? I would argue with Coach Van Gundy about that zone defense thing.
You're a zone guy, aren't you?
No, I'm not.
Zone at youth
I'm
level.
not. As I am a teach it, but not always play it.
I think he said, I accidentally skipped ahead too
Yeah.
on that video. I was trying to touch it. I was trying to find something on it. But he said only zone.
Yeah, I thought.
He did- yeah.
But a lot of coaches are like, no, zone. You can't teach kids, and I think it goes back to what you said, and the articles that I've read have as far as winning goes, one of the things they say is they focus less on winning and focus more about effort. The problem that most coaches that know what they're talking about, and they do know what they're talking about when they say don't play zone and youth, because the reason they don't want youth basketball players playing zone is because they play it at a lazy level, right? So that's that's where the effort comes in.
Sure.
Like, we don't play zone because it's easier, because you don't have to do as much. There's reasons that we play zone, but I think it's important to understand a zone concept so that you can play it as you get older. That's all a part of it.
Well, yeah, it's definitely a huge part of the game now.
But no, I'm not a.
But the principles of
strictly a zone guy.
man-to-man are what you need to play good zone, right?
Sure.
The principles, some of the
Maybe
principles.
you could also say
Well,
the
unless you don't teach any help side defense, things like that,
right.
right?
So, so help sides like zone it will that reinforces the understanding of a help side
Sure.
defense.
Playing a zone helps you reinforce that. So
they're
it fits
the
both
same. It's
back and
defense.
forth.
Good
Yeah.
defense
Right.
translates between zone and man.
Yeah.
And the real good
And
teams that play zone defense play it
And
like
if that's
they play
the
man.
approach that you have as a youth coach in teaching these things, fantastic. But
Sure.
if your approach is we're going to play zone against this team,
Just stand there
because
because
they're
they
all
can't
really
shoot.
short and they can't shoot,
Yeah,
and
they
we're
can't
going to
shoot
win.
from- right,
And
yeah.
so just stand. You stand. You go see a 2-3 zone, and they're just standing in those 3 spots with their hands up. Right.
Yeah.
As long as you tell them to put their hands up, they're doing it right.
right. For sure.
Welcome to basketball season. There's a lot of basketball talk today.
Well, it is basketball season.
It's getting there
For sure.
for some schools.
Coach Van Gundy made a good point there. He said we're playing I think it was early in the statement. He said we just want to play a lot of games, and I think that is a trap that we fall into.
Yeah.
And I would say that to parents and to players is that the most important, like there is a great point. What's the most important part
Of your kids' experience.
and not of your kid's experience as a youth, but what's the most important time that a coach is there? Like when are you most important? Is it during a game or is it during practice? It's during practice.
Absolutely.
Right. And for
Yeah, if you got to choose when to work, like you have a certain number of days that you could take off, right?
yeah,
As a coach,
you take the games off.
no. I mean, most people do.
Well, you're
right? But don't take practice days off.
What do you mean?
Take off of work. Off work.
Oh
Yeah.
I thought you meant
Yeah, we're on the
you're
same
not
page.
going to show up.
Yeah. I'm going to take off work on practice days because that's when I'm most valuable to my team.
Right.
If I have to miss something, it's going to be games.
Right.
Nobody's doing that.
Yeah.
But that's what we're saying. That as a youth coach, you are more important in practice. As a high school coach, I'm more important in practice.
Yeah. For
I
sure.
mean, in my sport.
Yeah,
Right?
Because
in our sport.
you're a manager at
Yeah,
the time when
we're a
when
manager
the game
during the
starts.
game.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's something that parents can keep in mind too. Is that the most important time for your kids at youth is during practice, and that that kind of shifts too as you get older. Because that's to win, you got to win during those practice times.
Yeah.
So, that's something to keep in mind too. You just can't go out and play a bunch of games and expect to get better. And a lot of the time when you're talking about development, you're talking about what's going on in practice more so than what's happening during a game.
Yeah, for sure.
We talked about basketball enough today?
We've talked about it a lot. Yeah. There is a quiz. There are some things that you could do as a coach to find out where you stand on this, right? Are you a development first person or are you a winning first person in terms of your mindset and your approach? There's on this particular website that I just talked about, the soccer website, the GNK Youth Academy. They have a matrix for their coaches, a little quiz that they want them to take. It's a decision-making matrix where they have on the left side of the chart, you have development-focused scores. And on the right side, you've got
can I take this
winning
quiz right
focus.
now live?
Want me to give it to you?
Yeah, let's
take it live. All right.
Like, is it multiple choice or there has to be something?
I'll
Go
tell
ahead.
you how to answer here. So
Okay,
I'm going to give you a decision topic and then what the focus on development coach thinks.
Okay.
And then what the focus on winning coach thinks.
Okay.
All right. So just give you one example. So your personal presentation, how you present yourself to the public as a coach.
Oh, what matters most?
What matters most to you?
I can show you. I can show you. Okay.
Focused on
so
development.
There's an option. Okay.
Yeah, there's two boasts. What are you boasting about? Okay. Focus on development boasts with players that have come out of the program and or ideas about growth and training process. Like those are the things you can't wait to talk about. These are some players that have come out of the program and this is what they're doing today, things like that. Focus on winning boast about the results that their teams have achieved.
Well, you know what? I can't lie. I've never posted on our social media sites, or our social media sites have never seen a post about this kid is doing this outside of high school. The only real post I've made is about a championship or something like that. So,
And you're thinking as a high school coach right now, too,
yeah.
right?
So I'm boasting. I'm boasting. I mean, that's the only boasting that I know that we really do is social media posts. So it would have to be the championship. Although that's not where my focus is.
Right. Number 2, who takes priority? Focus on development is you put players' needs before your own. Focus on winning. Put your needs for recognition and the advancement before the advancement of your players.
Right. That's definitely the other way around.
Yeah.
First option.
When you're selecting players, when you're looking to put together a team, see, you can't think about as a high school coach on this.
Yeah, but I'll put together many a team. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So focus on development. You're looking for the player that will be dominant when they reach adulthood, which is not, and so that's not an easy task to try to figure out who that's going to be right now as a young player. But give you some examples. Size matters less because there could be some late developers, right? So you consider this person could be a late bloomer. But technical skill, passion for the game, and understanding are valued.
Yeah. I win that because I've actually told people, like some people have told me, he's not going to play, but I'm not really sure you want him because he's not that good. I'm like, I don't care how good he is. I just like him, so I want him.
Yeah, there you go. Well, the focus on winning mindset is this. You're going to find the player that is dominant, players that are most dominant, and that's who you're selecting, which is you're favoring the biggest and the strongest now, the early developers. Size and speed matter most. Athleticism and current physical dominance is what matters most.
Sure, and a travel organization is going to be on that side of it because they're going to.
100%.
Just by default, they're going to select those kids.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. We've talked about this one. The decision to make right here is competition, league, and tournaments. On the development side, you're seeking a challenge. You're going to play against competition where the team might end up being 3-3 or win games by a small margin only, potentially lose. Mm-hmm. On the winning first side of things, you're going to seek dominance, often playing below your level of competition, reinforcing the idea that you're good.
Yeah, definitely. You want to be challenged. And, I would say there's a caveat to that. You really, you can't go into a situation either where you're just losing all the time either. I mean, that's part of the filling out process, and if you find yourself you know, if you've put together a team and you find yourself out there losing a lot more, 80% of the time or something like that, you should probably think about adjusting that as you go to make it, to flip it a little bit, because you don't want to lose all the time. But again, you really don't want to win all the time either. And it sounds really odd to say that, but you really don't. You want to be challenged.
Yeah. Very similar one here. Event importance. What's the more important event? On the development side, training is more important than games.
Yeah.
And that is reflected in the ratio of trainings to games that you choose to have. And sometimes when you're in a league where you don't get to choose this, that's difficult for coaches who have a development mindset, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is, Tar. And, I would say, like, because we made a point earlier where, like, in high school, the games become more important. But I would say in high school, effort during practice is emphasized.
Yeah.
You have to be able to be your best at the games. You have to give everything you've got in practice.
Absolutely.
And that's a challenge that coaches have.
It is.
To get the best out of their players during practice.
To practice at the same level that you want them to play. Yeah, without a doubt. Let me skip down here. Let's see. Team evaluation. How you evaluate your team. Development side is... so this is game or task oriented. The main question that we ask after the game is, how did we play? On the winning side, it's result oriented. The question that we ask after the game, did we win?
Yeah. That's probably situational.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can mix that, I think.
But I mean, you could play really well. You could play up to your potential and lose, and you basically just recognize
you can.
It's good for us to be playing these challenging games against these challenging teams, because if that's where you want to be, you now see what you've got to. You see what level you've got to reach to get to that point.
You can also play really bad and win.
Oh, heck yeah!
So then you're talking. That's when you're really talking about how did we play. It's not just about the result.
Right.
We didn't come in ready to play today. We're not playing our best.
Yeah.
We got to fix that.
Yeah.
Or we're not going to be successful going forward. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Curriculum. What kind of curriculum do you have? All right. So there's, on the development side, there's a set plan and program of training and development needs that is, one, age-specific and holistic, rooted in long-term athlete development. It's a big picture model. On the winning side, winning mindset, there is no set plan or training program, but rather a reaction to last week's game with an idea to fix the problems of last week in order to beat the next opponent.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
So the mindset of how you develop your practices is not just based on your opponents, but based on the actual kids that you have and developing them even better.
Yeah. I would like to think that that's my focus.
Right.
Not to say that we don't prepare in certain ways for certain teams, but now that's different. I'm talking as a high school baseball coach now. And I think, again, there's less, you do that at the high school level more than what you would do at the elementary level. But I would think that every coach would want to aim to that they're, the way that you plan to develop your kids is holistic as opposed to just, for this season or for this game. Just makes more sense.
Yeah.
Plus, it's hard. It's a system that way.
Right.
Every year you're coming in knowing what you're going to do, and that your coaches grow into that, and you grow into that, and your program grows into that. So to me, it just makes everything stronger.
Right.
But
here's one for you: officials and referees. On the development side, you respect their role, understanding that they are facilitators of the game that you're playing. And it's another element of the game that we can't control.
Yeah, been thinking about this a lot.
On the winning
basketball.
side, on the winning first side, they're an element that we try to control and potentially use as an excuse when we lose or fail.
Yeah, I've never blamed an official for a loss.
Even as a Browns fan? Well, actually, the Browns have been on the receiving end of some pretty darn good officiating here lately.
Yeah, that's why
One of the greatest controversies in the NFL.
That's why we didn't win this week, because we didn't get a good call. I actually thought there was a hold on this the final touchdown of the game Sunday that wasn't called, but you don't hear anyone crying about that, do you? No. But yeah, no, I don't think it's good. It's good for him to blame an official, because here's what I've always said: you can always play well enough that the officials don't have an impact in the game.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
Even if some officials cheat. That probably happens 1% of the time. I'm not going to deny that happens, but even then, they don't typically cheat throughout the whole game. They they pick and choose. So you could still play to a level that would completely eliminate that as a possibility. So but I have
trust me, Nathan Carroll's not betting on your game at your youth level, right? So just if he stinks the whole game, it's not because he's got money on your youth team.
Right, exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Here's one for you. Who do you give praise to? Praises afterwards. Development side, we praise good decisions and the people who made assists. Of course, this is from a soccer website, right?
Yeah.
On the winning first mindset side, we praise successful attempts and the one who finishes, the one that scores the goals.
Yeah. Well, I think that's
praise first. What's your first mindset? That's the idea here. Like, what's your first mindset? Your first mindset.
I'd say
right?
if you did
you
your
praise
job,
home runs.
What's your job?
Yeah.
And that doesn't. I would say results aren't tied to that.
Yeah.
So that's true for assist or anything.
Whatever your role is. Did you do your role?
What's your role? Did you do your job? And did you do it the best that you could? That's what That's that. And if everyone does that, you're a successful team.
Yeah.
Because you're rising to the highest level that you can rise. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
And you're going to lose games that way, and you'll win games that way too. But if everyone does it together and you do it the best you can, that gives you the best chance to win. Besides all the variables.
Yeah. Your rationalization upon losing. Development side, what lessons from today can we turn into next week's practice? On the winning first mindset side, the players just weren't good enough and didn't execute the game plan today.
Yeah. I would say that's an NFL mindset right there. The players just didn't execute, and it's probably true a lot of times. But not big on that.
No, I'm not either. Yeah. Success.
I mean, why do we need coaches if that's the case?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Success on the development side determined by us and our goals that we set in advance. That's how we determine success. On the winning side, just determined by result of games.
Yeah. That's pretty obvious.
Yeah. And then here's one for players, your key players on your team. This isn't just for you. This is for the key players on your team during rough times. They pull on the development side. The key players will pull team members up and help others get better. On the winning first mindset side, your key players will pull the team down typically because they'll be accusing them of not being on their level.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a coach's responsibility too.
It's a coach thing. That's why it's in the coach's list, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, if you're developing those players properly, they're going to handle that situation properly.
Yeah.
So that's what they're, and that has, that doesn't have anything to do with the result of anything.
Right.
That's just
right.
The type of teammate they are, the type of person they are. So.
Yep.
Good stuff, Coach.
So the process,
most of them that way.
The process of winning. Yeah, you were.
Tell you what, though, I'm gonna start.
So you never did stack a team down there at the Middleport Rec League. You've never been.
Well,
I've heard Pat used to stack teams.
There will be people that tell you that. I'm not gonna say I didn't get as good players as I can. But even on those teams,
I would practice them. You developed them.
Well, even on those teams, I wouldn't turn away a kid that I liked because if he wanted to play, I would take them. I would turn away kids if I had a certain number. But no, I've coached all kinds of win-loss record teams, and when they were real young, people would get mad at me because I would play every kid in every position intentionally. Some people didn't think that was a good idea.
That's actually one of the things that was in that list. I skipped through a bunch of them.
There is an argument against that, though.
Yeah, there is.
Because if you're looking at a kid, you really think there's no chance that
in the future.
then are you doing them a service or a disservice by
Yeah.
letting them play in that position and not letting them play? And then the other
And
thing
then they
is,
hate the game and they quit.
yeah, right. So you
playing.
got to be careful. It's,
Yeah.
it's not easy, folks. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah,
doing
you
what we
should
do.
you should not rotate everybody to play pitcher's mound in a coach pitch league. Some kids are going to get hurt
Right.
if you do that, right? I
Right.
mean, so yeah, I could see the argument against
Right.
that.
But I'll say this: I always had, in my mind, really good teams, either from a talent or a persona perspective. I was always really happy with the teams that I put together, and that's how I would pick them. But I would say, looking back at the teams that Jake and Jeremiah played on, we've never. I'm trying to think. We've never really. Of teams that we put together, we've never really dominated. Had some success, 1 year, 2 year, whatever, but never really, won every game. I remember one basketball season we went 23-1, and that might have been the best record that I've ever had as a coach.
Yeah.
Just, so it was one time.
You got that trophy in your house?
No, it's
got a banner
it's
or
in
ring or anything?
actually it's in the elementary. It's in the
Oh, wow.
elementary,
Oh.
the trophy
Okay,
case at the
cool.
elementary. Yep.
That's cool.
It's got all the kids' names on it. I
We-
forgot to put mine on it.
I'll tell you, man,
It might have mine. No, it's Team Maroon. I was going to say it might be Team Martin, but it's Maroon.
We had all these. See, they used to get it's rings now and
Yeah.
medals or whatever, but they used to give team trophies at these events.
Yeah.
like from
That's what we
like
got,
Brock's 11U, 12U, all those years. We have these. And it wasn't something you'd have to tie it down on top of your car because it doesn't fit.
I seen one of
Those
your
are crazy.
trophies. Yeah, it was real.
Those are crazy.
yeah.
And so we would always argue over who was taking it home. And this coach would be
No,
like,
it
"You're
wasn't.
taking this one." And I tried to get zones to take them and put them in there. Like, "Hey, your kid plays on the team, right? You guys have a business. You collect these trophies." They're like, "We're not stacking those things in our store. We don't have room for that." And they're like, "Daggone it, what are we going to do with these?"
You sponsored us. Here's our
And
gift.
right. And so I remember when they were collecting dust. They were in a room in my house because they won't even fit in a closet or a storage or anything. And I'm like, what are we doing with these things? And I remember when April and I had a big cleaning day, and we just had boxes and boxes of these trophies sitting out the end of our driveway for the garbage man to pick up one day.
Yeah.
And because they will all turn to ash. All of our earthly trophies.
Treasures that fade.
They are treasures that fade.
Not going to fulfill you, folks.
Right. Well, I mean, did Brock? I mean, those were Brock's teams. Did he look out there and say, "Dad, what are you doing with those?" No, he could care less, because that's not what mattered at that age. It's not what. I mean, looking back on it, because it was like 5 or 6 years later. So he's in high school. He's like, "I see you finally got rid of those trophies."
My,
Right.
I don't know that either of our kids have ever. And it might sound bad, but I don't think they've ever appreciated anything like that.
Even last week, we had Morgan on here. Every time we asked a question, "What is your greatest memory?" What was her answer?
Yeah, it's about being around the players.
social time. The friendships that I've developed over the years playing.
Yeah.
I mean, every player, every level, that's what they're going to talk about. Listen, I'll even say this: even the pros, I think that's
Yeah.
what they value.
Well,
the
they
most.
don't. Obviously, the pros aren't going to. They're not going to think back and care about a plastic trophy or even a ring or whatever it is. So yeah, that's. I mean, we
Care
have to
about
wrap our head.
that bonus that they won winning the Super Bowl.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, the Porsche that they're driving now because of it.
Not trying to cut anyone down today. Don't want you to question.
Not at all.
Your effort or anything
Not at
like
all.
that.
We're very grateful for every youth coach.
Absolutely.
Regardless
Yeah.
of what your mindset is, we
Yeah,
need
for
people
sure.
to coach.
We need coaches. We need people to be good role models and to lead our youngsters. But it's good for us as coaches. If we want to be good coaches, we should evaluate ourselves and think about these things. So.
Well, and I think one thing for us to remember too is maybe as high school, if we're saying that the more important time of winning is, like, let's say varsity high school ball, right? You get a chance to go and play and win a state championship. You know who we should be mindful of praising then are those youth coaches that helped us get there.
Absolutely.
The development that you guys poured into these kids when they were 10 years old.
Yep.
Right? 11
sure.
years old, 8 years old. And bring them up and put them in your post. Take pictures of them. Let them stand in the front.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And those photos that you post on Facebook.
Yes, completely agree with
Said
you
that
on
for
that.
Coach Burton's sake. He loves when we post pictures on Facebook.
Does he? He likes that, huh?
No. Good topic. When you first told me about this topic, I thought, have we not talked about this? I'm sure we have, right? But oh well. Let's talk about it some more. It is the heart. It is the heart of this podcast because we go back to the very first 7 episodes. What was it all about? Player development versus
Not playing a bunch of games.
yeah.
There, right?
Yeah. So. Thanks everybody.